Closed captioning provided by Rockbridge Preschool and BringYourChildToWork.com, bringing parents and children together.
It's day 116, and there's still some issues with the weather. It's kind of been a long, especially cold winter, because we can't pour concrete unless it's been warmed long enough that it's thawed at least 16 inches deep. We need to get our slab for our garage poured over here in order to finish framing. We actually have to have our back patio poured as well in order to finish framing, because there's going to be piers underneath that is going to help support the roof line. We actually need to get our front suspended concrete ceiling in our storm room poured to finish framing.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be snowing, it's just the extreme cold is totally hurting us on the concrete side of things. If we can get our concrete in the ground in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I think we'll be fine. If it goes where it's 5 to 6 weeks, it's going to start getting real hard to get it finished on time. Well, on the layout of the house, everyone knows that it's supposed to be 16-inch on center. Everyone knows that. I don't know that they know how that transfers down through the entire house. Most people hear 16-inch on center, but all of your walls have studs and your floor as well. They are doing some larger lumber now where they can actually do 24-inch on center. But with 2x4s, the standard 16-inch on center, that's the center of the stud to the center of the stud, and that transfers to the floor and the ceiling as well. On the floor here, you can see the black lines, and you actually see a seam on the floor. That tells us there's a floor joist there where these two seams met. This line comes over, so there's a 2x10 under here, flows over, stud that comes straight up. On top of the stud is where the ceiling joist lines. So any load or force on the house goes straight down all the way to the concrete footing or slab, whatever's underneath there. On the front part, it's a wall. In the back, there's a footing with another stud wall on top of that coming to the floor. But this is just a good area to show how the layout is real important, how everything lines up, stud to stud, all the way down to the footing which carries the load. On the rafters, there's charts that tell us what size lumber we need to cover the span, and the span would be the inside edge of this wall to the inside edge of the wall over there. That's our span, and we can sit on top of that. For these rooms here, we're doing 2x6s, 16-inch on center. That meets our span that we need for our load carrying for the ceiling. Corey's up here now laying out the hallway section. There's going to be some other areas in the roof that we're actually going to have some LVLs, which are laminated veneer lumber. And those are going up to carry some roof load, so they're rated for a lot more load than the ceiling joists. And this room will have two 9¼ or 9.5-inch LVLs, and that will carry part of our hip roof load.
All right, so on a lot of roof systems, you typically have your ceiling joist that goes to your outside wall. We're just having an inside wall right here just to kind of show you what it would normally look like. You'd have your ceiling joist here, and then your rafter would come down, and your bird's mouth sits right on the outside of your wall there. And then the bottom of here is your ceiling in your house. So as you can see, as far as insulation goes, the insulation would stop right here, and then you'd only have this, your plywood sits on top of this, so you'd only have from this distance here is to fill with insulation on the very outside of your house. So it's not very much insulation. You get a lot of energy loss right there. So what we're doing over here is we're doing what's called an energy rim. We put basically like a band board around here, and then we'll set a 2x4 that goes on top of this all the way around the outside of the house. And what that is going to do is allow them to fill this whole cavity full of insulation all the way up to the top of the roof rafter. So they get an extra 5.5 or 6 inches of insulation in their ceiling right along the wall, where a lot of energy is lost a lot of times.
Plus it makes framing the roof easier. And then right here there's going to be a custom shower. Basically there's going to be a 42-inch by 60 onyx shower base. And it doesn't, obviously 60 inches is not the full width of this opening here. We're going to have about a 10.5 inch seat that we're going to install here. It's going to be an onyx base, tiled seat, tiled walls, and I'm imagining a frameless glass door. It may be framed with frameless glass door right here, so this will be a nice shower. When we did our original math based on kind of a standard 7-11 rule, which is 7 inches of rise, which is this front part, 11 inches of run, which is the tread part. When we did our initial layout, we found out that we were a little too short on our headroom right here. By code, it has to be 6'8" from the top of the landing to this, basically this header here, this beam. And when we did our math, we were at 6 foot. At the original layout, we'd been at about 6'5" or something like that. So what we had to do was just play with our numbers a little bit, stay in code, shorten our run just a little bit to help us get an extra step in here. And it worked out really good because now we have 6'11" is our height here, so we're well above code limit. And the stairs still feel very natural. We didn't have to manipulate them to a degree that they were uncomfortable or would look or feel unnatural, because your mind's programmed for what a step feels like. So if it's something really odd about it or inconsistent, you'll know it immediately. So we just kept playing with the numbers until we got something that looked and felt really comfortable, and that's what we got.
Brought to you in part by Carpet One Floor in Home Columbia. Best brands, best service. The one store for your perfect floor. Forum Christian Church, intentionally connecting people to Jesus. And Withrow Electric. No job too small.
Makes me smile a lot.
It's one place I don't have to worry about fitting in.
I learned how and why to make a difference.
Forum Christian Church, connecting, growing, living.
Imagine style so eloquent that functionality is secondary. Imagine expert guidance and a process that's all about you. Imagine exceptional quality at a price you can feel good about. Imagine immense satisfaction. Mark Hall Cabinetry, where everything you imagine materializes.
Look at these cherry tomatoes. Aren't they just perfect?
I'm going to get some fruit salad. Thanks.
My bathtub won't drain. Do you have an opening in a day or so? You are Mr. Reuter, right?
Bank teller.
Remember, there are other courteous people besides Mr. Reuter Plumbers.